English teacher, part 83. When a student asks you a question to which you do not know the answer, never pretend that you do. Never panic. Reply pleasantly and calmly that you do not know it and promise that you will try to find out. Follow up on your promise as promptly as possible and report back to your class explaining briefly, if appropriate, how and where you found the information. Explaining. Well, you may know from your own experience how important clear explanations are to the students. If you have encountered teachers or professors who lacked ability to explain clearly, you may remember some frustrating incidents when, for example, these instructors discovered that you did not understand a piece of information. They may merely have repeated it more loudly or told you that you should have listened more closely in the first place. Responding appropriately to your students' questions may often involve explaining information or procedures. The purpose of explaining. The purpose of explaining to help students understand any unfamiliar procedure, process, concept, generalization, or principle. As a teacher, you may use explanation to clarify. Number one, cause and effect relationship. For example, the effect of adding an acid to a base, or the causes and the results of the Industrial Revolution in England. Number two, application of a rule or law to a particular circumstance, event or activity. For example, the use of question mark in written English, reasons why persons in a moving automobile should wear seat belts. Number three, a procedure or process, for example, the operation of an internal combustion engine or the steps used to solve an algebra problem. Number four, the purpose of an action or process, for example, the use of color in a painting to create a mood or the wearing of a uniform by some members of the police forces. Planning explanations. To plan an effective explanation, you might need to make a careful analysis of the matter you wish to explain. Well, obviously you are unlikely to explain successfully any information or process with which you yourself are not thoroughly familiar with. Once you have made your analysis and are sure that you understand the material you wish to explain, you should proceed with your planning by taking 5 steps. Number one, think through the purpose of the explanation. Number two, organize your explanation. Number three, organize your explanation logically, beginning with the information known to your students and moving into new areas by small sequential steps. Number three, prepare an easy to understand definition or outline that contains the key ideas. Number four, select clear examples or plan a demonstration. Well, then there can be some inquiry stems, say for instance, you can say what's happening, what has happened, what have you been already seen something, or how did this happen, or what caused it to happen, and why did this happen. Then there are stems relating situations or objects. What kind of objects? What is it called? What is it made of? Where is it found? How does it look like? How does it work? Have you ever seen anything like it? How does it operate? How can you recognize or identify it? Well, you need to plan to conclude your explanation with a summary presented. Since these planning steps are not teaching steps, since planning is not always linear, you may take these steps in a different order. You should take them all. There is use in illustrated provided in the example as well. Delivering explanations. Clear explanations may develop new content to respond to the students and their questions. A good explanation is more interactive than presentation. Begin an explanation only when all your students are attending. To maintain their attention, keep your explanations brief, to the point. They should be just long enough to cover the essentials without launching students on a flood of unnecessary and confusing detail. Vary the stimuli of voice, gesture, and pauses for think time if attention wanders. Rekindle it with an interesting example or illustration, or by asking a question to remind your students that they are accountable for their own learning process.